The example of Japan is unique in many ways. Until the second half of the 19th century, the country was in a state of developed samurai feudalism and also in a mode of closing itself off from the rest of the world. And the world was then something like this: several powerful and all the rest, which served as spheres of influence or were simply colonies of the first group of the powers mentioned. All these powers were either European, including Russia, which at one time modernized its army and management system according to Western standards back in the time of Peter the Great, or had European roots, the USA, but they were clearly not in first place yet. And suddenly, to the small list of geopolitical players joins Japan, an Asian country, a poor island state, which not long ago was raging through its own civil war. The Boshin War of 1868 to 1869 led to the abolition of the shogunate and the beginning of the westernization and modernization of Japan. This change came under the authority of imperial rule, though the emperor's real power was always limited, with true control shifting among leaders. It was a true revolution from above, where over many years rulers broke traditional structures and suppressed samurai and peasant uprisings. Simultaneously, Japan created a modern army, first modeled on the French, then switching to the German system after the Franco-Prussian War, while their navy followed both English and French inspirations. Yet the army is a mirror of society. Throughout history, countries like the Ottoman Empire also tried to create new types of armies, facing resistance from traditionalists like the Janissaries. These struggles reveal how the army was built and how it was built. The army was built in a way that it was how hard it is to modernize a country while honoring its past. The situation was even more complicated for the Persians, where the reformed army of Abbas Mirza essentially remained a small guard in the mass of tribal militias. Among the aforementioned elite were also defectors from the Russian Empire, the so-called Bagadarans. Similar stories arose in other countries of Asia and Africa, from China to Ethiopia. Everywhere, the new type of troops seriously depended on foreign specialists and met with a negative attitude from the local population, especially from the traditional military elites. At the same time, a regular army was being created. Moreover, the Japanese tried to take the best from everyone. At first, the army was built according to the French model, but after the Franco-Prussian War, the German way was chosen. In the navy, they followed the example of the English and the French. But the army is a reflection of society. There are many examples where one or another backward country tried to create troops of a new type. The Ottomans struggled with this for a long time, since the end of the 18th century. Nizam-i-Sadid, the indignation of the traditionalist Janissaries. The Japanese introduced compulsory universal education while simultaneously focusing on building their own officer corps at various levels. During the 1870s and 1880s, alongside the establishment of a vast network of military academies, the nation rolled out universal compulsory schooling and developed an extensive system of general education. The significance placed on this can be seen in the 1872 adoption of the Gakusei Education Regulations, which set forth the creation of a centralized nationwide school system. At that time, the Japanese army stood out as a rare example where the principle of keeping the armed forces out of politics was not observed. On the contrary, officers were deliberately trained to grasp political and geopolitical realities, identifying current allies, potential adversaries, and more. They were also tasked with passing this political and strategic knowledge on to the rank-and-file soldiers. Apparently, the situation of their own civil war played a role. Samurai uprisings in the country continued for quite a long time, and the peasants initially did not want to serve in the new army. It was necessary to convince them all of the opposite, and only bayonets were not suitable for this. There was a flip side to this coin. Serious politicization of the officer corps led to splits into informal associations and circles, but the peak of this situation would still fall on a later period. In the meantime, command personnel of all ranks were ordered to hold meetings no less than once a week, at which they were supposed to not only answer questions from military personnel, but also conduct a conversation on a specific topic. During conversations with soldiers, pressing political and economic issues were explained, including the international situation and Western achievements in military affairs and organization of service. The Japanese invented political officers who combined traditional bravado with technocracy in their rhetoric, urging that Western methods must be learned or defeat would follow. By 1909, fewer than 10% of Japanese military conscripts were illiterate, while in the Russian Empire in 1913, 1 in 4 recruits was illiterate, even ignoring different literacy standards. Over several decades, Japanese leaders created their own officer corps, which in Russia had long relied on foreigners, and they also completed an educational reform. This combination of military modernization and mass education was unprecedented in Asia at the time, and it created a uniquely synergistic effect. By ensuring ensuring that even the lowest-ranking soldier could read, write, and understand orders, Japan not only improved battlefield efficiency, but also fostered a sense of national unity that transcended old feudal loyalties. Soldiers from distant rural provinces, once loyal only to their local clan or domain, began to see themselves as part of a single imperial nation. This was further reinforced by the curriculum, which blended Western scientific and technical knowledge with a strong dose of state Shinto ideology. Loyalty to the emperor became a rallying cry in modern Japan, reinforced by the glorification of military service. Such an approach not only reduced resistance among the peasantry to conscription, but also turned the army into a powerful tool for shaping the very identity of modern Japan. In effect, the military barracks became an extension of the schoolhouse, and the classroom became a preliminary training ground for soldiers, both serving the same ultimate goal: forging a disciplined, educated, and politically aware populace ready to defend and expand the interests of the state.